Hey guys, good morning. Mike, welcome.
Good morning.
This is our first show.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for being my first guest.
Absolutely. 100%.
So, sobriety, spirituality, and sales.
Can't go wrong with any of those.
Right? And I feel like we can talk about all three subjects today.
Perfect.
So, I would like to just start off by just getting to know you a little bit. I obviously I know you, but let's ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Let the audience kind of get to know you.
Absolutely.
So, where are you from originally?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Moved out to Tucson in 2003.
Okay. And your work brought you out here? A new career?
Yeah. I'm a State Farm agent. And so basically in 2003, they had a bunch of agents that retired, and they asked me, hey, would you be interested? I was already working for corporate, so they asked me if I would be interested in moving to Tucson, and I took the jump.
You're like,
and don't regret it one bit. I love it. Desert right now.
Right? You're almost a native.
Yeah, exactly.
And did you play sports growing up?
I played football and golf, and I swam.
Because you're a bigger guy. What are you, 6'5"?
6'5". Well, I was 6'5". I think I'm 6'4" now.
Right?
Yeah.
We start shrinking as we get
Exactly.
older. So, and then you went to college at Missouri State?
Yeah,
right?
Missouri State.
Okay. What's their mascot?
The Bear.
Okay.
The
Bears,
SMSU Bears.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
That was good. I mean, it's just typical college. It took me a little bit longer to graduate, but eventually I did. And then majored in finance and stayed in Springfield. Probably a couple of years after, I got a job with American Express Financial Advisors. So I was financial planning with them for a couple of years, and they wanted me to move to Memphis or Little Rock, and I just had no desire to do so. So I found a job. State Farm had a corporate opening for a life insurance specialist. And so I took that, just trying to, took it with the hopes of finding something different, like a medical sales rep or a pharmaceutical sales rep, and got that job and was working with agents throughout Springfield, Missouri, and really just saw how those guys and gals were living, and I made up my mind that I wanted to be an agent.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody says I want to be an insurance agent when I grow up.
Yeah. Absolutely. So another question for you. Your dad was a business owner, is that correct?
Yeah.
Your father was? Okay.
He was.
So is that why you chose the finance route in college? Is that why you chose like sales as a career? I mean, you're saying it yourself, you saw what it provided.
100%. Yeah, my dad owned, when I was younger, he owned a couple of hardware stores and a pizza parlor. I just admired him, his work ethic. I never saw my dad sitting on the couch ever. And I liked the freedom that he had. And then he ended up getting out of that business, became a realtor, and then after that he became a mortgage lender and ended up having his own mortgage practice in St. Louis.
Okay.
So yeah, entrepreneurs. My mom's a realtor. I mean, they all make their own hours, but they put in the time, and it's based on based on their productivity.
Right.
So yeah.
So that I guess that's the premise for my show, right? Is that our personal development, what we do with ourselves, how we grow ourselves, is like a direct correlation to how our businesses will grow.
Absolutely.
Right. So like you're saying, your dad never sat on the couch. You never saw it. He was a hustler.
Yeah.
So he's always doing these things. So it was a great example for you growing up. And you said you went to Catholic high school out there, right? Like an all boys school?
Yeah, I went to Catholic schools. I mean, St. Louis is known for all the all-boy Catholic schools, all-girl Catholic schools. So I went to an all-boy Catholic school till my freshman year, and then ended up going to the public school just because my friends were all around. There were girls.
Yeah.
So I begged my father, can I please? And he gave in.
Yeah.
So it was
Did you
great.
have to sell him on it pretty hard?
Not too bad.
Did you have to be a salesman before you were ever actually a
I already
salesman
was,
in your
but
career?
yeah. No, he had to write that tuition check every year, so
Yeah.
he was pretty much, okay, this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
He was good like that.
Well, let me ask you this. So being that you were in Catholic school, were you raised in the church? Were you a practicing Catholic at the time, or was it just happenstance you were at that school and that's?
Oh, no. My parents, ever since I can recall, we went to church every Sunday and religiously every week, didn't miss a week, and, did that pretty much so most of my younger years, at least till I was in the house.
Right. Yeah, I think we have similar backgrounds because I went to Catholic school and it was more like you're going, right? If friends stayed over in high school, they had to go with us.
Yeah.
So they stopped wanting to hang out and stay overnight because they didn't want to go to.
It was a good structure. I mean, they were strict, but it was a lot of fun. It was worth every bit of it. I mean, I definitely admire the foundation that I developed going to those private schools at that point. I think it pretty much just set me up through high school and college.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's all right, I'd like to talk about your son,
Please.
about Jack.
Absolutely.
I got the opportunity to meet Jack in March. And Jack passed away July 21st? 26th.
Yeah.
Okay. So your son Jack had just turned 21 in June.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of 5 children that you have, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And, Jack was about your height, maybe
a little bigger.
Maybe a little taller. Right? He could dunk. Could you ever dunk?
Not like him.
Not like
but yeah,
him?
he was a beast.
Yeah.
Just a physically gifted kid.
So I don't know if I ever told you the story of how I got interconnected with him. Basically, Sarah, your ex-wife, reached out to me through my Facebook group and just said, "Hey, I've got this young man that he's looking for someone to kind of walk him through this sobriety journey."
Sure.
Not mentioning that it was her son.
Sure.
So that was kind of the running joke
Exactly.
between me and Jack, and then I eventually told her. So I met with Jack. We went hiking. We started working a 12-step program together.
Mm-hmm.
I got to spend a lot of time with him in a short period, and I think what struck me the most was his eagerness to make this change, especially at such an early age.
Correct.
Okay. And maybe I got too ahead of myself, but Jack he liked to party. He had some issues. He had some demons he was dealing with drugs mostly.
Correct.
Not so much alcohol.
Correct.
Myself being in recovery, November 5th, it'll be 7 years for myself. I know all too well the struggles, right?
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this at his services. I'm surprised I'm still alive today, frankly, because of everything that I've done. So I was in a position where I said, yes, absolutely, I'd love to help him. And a lot of times when somebody reaches out for help, especially another person, a family member, a friend, the willingness of that individual is not there because they're not the one reaching out. Somebody else is saying, I know they need help.
Yeah.
But again, it struck me that he was very willing. He kind of listened to everything I had to say. He took the suggestions that I had to say. We went to Mount Lemmon a couple times. We went out to breakfast and dinner a few times, and it's just and then I would talk to him every night on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mentioned this at the service, just this, I think his legacy is he was courageous in the face of fear.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, and my fiance Melissa had mentioned this. She said, I can't imagine the amount of pain that he was in to ultimately end up where it ended up.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is, and as a 21-year-old to try and make this change when every 20, I shouldn't say every, but most 21-year-olds are partying, are drinking, or doing things that society says is okay to do, or that's how we congregate, or that's how we connect with people. And I feel like that couldn't be further from the truth. That's just what's pushed. It's an agenda. So that was Jack's biggest thing is he kind of grew a little reclusive in a sense,
mm-hmm.
and only because he knew that it could be detrimental hanging out with these other college kids.
Correct.
Or high school friends that were still doing these same things
mm-hmm.
that he knew he couldn't be around.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big struggle for him, but I admired the heck out of him for that, because I know the mental torture that we go through, okay. And I've posted this recently, and we've talked about it. The opposite of addiction is connection,
mm-hmm.
and not having that connection and living with mom And even though mom's a great resource and they're like best friends, he's still missing that key component, which is the connection with people his age.
Yeah, he always had a struggle. This was his sophomore year at the U of A. And even through high school, summers were tough for him because he didn't know what to do with himself. I mean, he's a very regimented kid, and school was great. You know, he was always super focused on his grades. I mean, straight A student. But yeah, when it came to summertime, that was the time that we all kind of buckled in and tried to do whatever we can to keep him busy, whether it was work. He went on a backpacking trip last year, I think up in Montana or British Columbia. And we just wanted to get him through the summertime. And unfortunately, he didn't make it this summer.
Yeah, I remember the night that Katie called me, and it was tough. And honestly, I was not surprised. And I also mentioned that at his service just because of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would just like to ask you, like, what did you admire most about your son? You know, all drugs aside, the bad things aside, like what were Jack's best attributes?
I mean, that was just the 1% that I could say that was wrong with him. You know, everything else he was everything you would want your son to be. I mean, he was a gifted athlete. He was extremely intelligent. He was good looking. He was always the big kid in the class, so he never had that fear growing up or being bullied by anybody because he was the big guy. What I admired most about him was the fact that he had no ego. I mean, he was as pure and as big-hearted of a person that you'll ever meet. I mean, that's just the impression that he made on anybody that he came in contact with, was just how genuine he was. He was very loyal, and he lived his life with integrity. And, you know, it's sad. It's a horrific loss because the world needs more people like Jack.
100%. Yeah, I think Sarah shared this with me, that there was a time at school when somebody was getting bullied or somebody was the odd man out at a table, and he took the time to go sit with that person and to like show them some love and be inviting. Hey, come on over here with us, or let me sit with you. And that, you know, I've heard other stories like that.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there was a time a young lady reached out to us. He sat next to this girl in the class, and they didn't really know each other, but they sat next to each other, and, you know, they would probably say hello to each other and stuff like that. And one day he just noticed that she wasn't herself, you know, and I guess it bothered him. So after class, he went to her and just said, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay?" You know, and I guess they went for a walk, and he gave her a hug. And, you know, she said, you know, she still thinks about that moment just because she didn't say anything, but he just knew something was wrong, and he went to her.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have to. He could have just been like, you know, going to my next class, going to hang with my buddies. But he was concerned, and that's just who Jack was. He just had a heart of gold, just a big heart.
He sure did. And I mean, to me, that's real leadership, right? Is like not caring about what other people think, taking the time to notice everybody.
Yeah,
and
no ego.
Showing concern and the no ego. I can remember the first time we hiked, and he's like, "Yeah, my folks they like to rescue dogs." You know, he didn't mention you guys have this huge dog rescue, right? But like that was him to a T, and everything that he said, you could tell. Yeah, it was very little ego, but also what you touched on was the emotional piece that he had. He was very connected, right, to his emotions, and that's a great trait to have. But on some levels, it can also hurt you a lot.
Correct.
Especially if you're an addict.
Yeah.
Right? Because we feel on a totally different level. And so at the end of the day, I feel like we're trying to drown out feelings at some point, trying to mask those feelings until, you know, either A, we die, B, the drugs stop working, or C, we make a change.
Yeah.
And he was on his way to change, but there was this, you know.
Yeah, that's the sad thing is that, you know, if you saw him on the street, he's not the typical, you know, I think we all have a picture of what somebody looks like that's addicted to drugs. And his thing is he hated it. He felt horrible about it. Anytime he would do abuse, the next day he would be at the gym, working out, running, trying to make it right with himself, thinking I could sweat this out. Why did I do that? I mean, he was his biggest enemy when it came to that. He did not want to do it.
Right.
But it's a sickness.
It is a sickness. It's a spiritual sickness.
Yeah.
That requires a spiritual solution. And, another thing that Sarah mentioned was, he was going back to church, and that he was praising God, in the pews, raising his hands up, hallelujah, getting connected.
Yeah.
Because I told him, man, you got to have a relationship. You got to build a relationship to overcome this.
Yeah.
And so, and I also mentioned this at the service, and I wholeheartedly agree with it, is he probably lived more in his 21 years than most people do in 60 or 70
Without
years.
a doubt.
Because he put his heart out there. He wore his emotions. He was super helpful to people. He was the life of the party, right?
Correct.
But that was also part of the demise, right? Was it the feelings that...
Yeah, to go on what you just said, this is a kid who was 21 years old that didn't live in his head. He was a very emotional man. Didn't care. If he wanted to cry, he cried. And that was just Jack. He was truly connected with his heart. Yeah. And really lived his life from the inside. And to do that at 21, to figure that out at that age, 100%. You don't really figure, at least I didn't figure it out until, 51, 52?
We're still figuring it out.
Yeah. And he got it. And, I want to really thank you for what you did for him, because he went to a rehab at the beginning of the year. And when he got out, he needed somebody like you, just a real leader, made him accountable. He looked forward to the hikes up in Mount Lemmon, the 7:00 phone call at nighttime. He admired you, and he didn't want to let you down.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from him. And I know we've had those discussions, like, part of his legacy as well is like, how are we going to implement what Jack used in his recovery journey into our lives?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to say, I don't care what other people think about me. I'm going to do the next right thing. I'm going to reach out to somebody that I know may be struggling. I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to go dance on the dance floor. I don't care who's watching.
That's right.
Right. Those type of things.
Absolutely.
There's just certain people that cross your paths and come into your life that, it could be a month or 3 months, it could be 40 years, but they just leave a mark on your heart. And it was definitely,
he did that
made.
100%. His service, it was very emotional, but the turnout was unbelievable. And that's just a testament of who he was and the amount of people that he touched in this short journey of life that he had.
And do you think, would it be fair to say that even if one person in that service heard a message from any of us that allows them to make a change in their life?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's worth.
Correct.
It's worth the discussion. And I admire you, and I want to thank you for the courage to stand here and talk about this subject.
Mm-hmm.
To sit here and talk about this subject, to allow me to share at his service and be vulnerable and share what was really going on.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if we hide that, if we say, well, we'll just sweep it under the rug, it was an accident or whatever. Yeah. Who does that help? Who does that serve?
Nobody.
So the strength and the courage that it's taking, and you're on your own journey, you're walking down this path, Jack's right beside you. He's kind of guiding you, right? So talk about that a little bit. How, if you don't mind sharing, how are you healing? How are you trying to understand this, or are you trying to understand it, or are you just...
Yeah, it's just to go back to the service, you said if we can help one person, I think one of the greatest things that you said was you challenged the fraternity or the Greek system. because he was in the Greek system, to have a sober party. I think our culture has made alcohol and drugs so acceptable that there needs to be a shift back. The kids got to realize that they don't need this. You're there to go to school. Yes, we can have fun, but it doesn't have to be about alcohol, partying with drugs, whatever it may be. It's a lot different world out there today than it was when I was going to school in the early 90s.
It is, and the drugs are more dangerous, obviously.
Yeah.
And look at Jack's life. I mean, these types of drugs, these synthetic drugs, were not out there and available, at least also when I was doing drugs. And then, ultimately with my podcast, with my coaching business, is I want people to know, and I want to reiterate the fact that you can have just as much fun sober, if not more fun, than you can have when you're messed up.
Absolutely.
And you can wake up the next morning bright and early, and you can be productive, and you can have clarity, and you can have focus at work, and you can make more money, right? Like you can have all these things.
It's a drug in itself. After he passed, I really didn't know what my purpose was. As a father, you work, you build, you're doing it all for your family. You're doing it for your kids. And that when he's not around, it's like, okay, what am I doing this for now? I mean, I've got a phenomenal wife. I've got 3 stepkids we've been together for 15 years. They're doing great. My daughter lives in St. Louis. She's on her own. She's doing good. And Jack was pretty much the last boy to figure it out. So now that he's gone, it's like, what am I going to do with myself? What is this all about? And I was lost. I still am, but I believe I'm on the right path. And that's why I reached out to you. I heard about your business. I hired you because when I was around you, just those few instances, I felt great. I felt really good. I felt connected, and I wanted to make the change. I had expectations of my son to make a change. And I guess if there's a regret, it's the fact that I didn't make that change with him at that same point. But I decided to make it now. And that's basically, I wanted to know what he was going through. I think with me, it was just more so, I like bourbon. And
you showed me your collection. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I like bourbon. So, it's just breaking the habit, getting home from work and having a glass, having a second one, having a third, and waking up the next day. And I mean, I'm 52, you're foggy. You're not handling it as well as you used to. So yeah, I thought it was time, it's time to man up and do something different. And I want to honor my son and walk the path that he was starting to walk as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't felt better. I mean, I wake up every day. I feel fantastic. I meditate now. Go to the gym.
So Jack had a little routine, right?
He sure did.
What was his routine?
He had I think, a 20-minute meditation every morning when he went outside, and he was just spiritually, whether he was praying or meditating, I'm not sure. I kind of let him do his thing.
Yeah.
But that's how he started the day as well.
Yeah. I think it was prayer, meditation, and then he would do like a gratitude list.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that was in the morning or at night. And so I think, and I mentioned this to the guys at the service, or to everybody really, is adopt that routine.
Yeah.
Prayer, meditation, gratitude list.
Absolutely.
And you just can't go wrong with that. And then movement, working out. He would also
he was big on that.
Or he would go work out right at some point. And I think for an addict, first of all, just to touch on, having a couple of drinks at night, it's a sense of ease and comfort that we get from that. And at some point, it stops working.
Yeah.
Because there's a thought at some point that comes into our head that says, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And the more we fight that thought, and the more we go against that thought, the bigger the trouble becomes down the line.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fair to say for you, maybe you've had these thoughts, right?
Yes.
But I think we also touched on this, being a business owner, being a successful person, which by all means you are, it's kind of easy to say, well, look what I've built for myself.
Yeah, I don't have to now.
I'm not going to lose my house. There's nothing that's really super bad that's going to happen. Like, I deserve this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of voices in our heads that tell us these different things that make us feel like we deserve it. So
yeah, and I mean I think that's kind of where I was a bit lost. You know, I have a business. I have the best team that I work with. I've got great clients that I super appreciate every day for being with me as long as they have, almost 20 years. And so that's kind of been an overdrive. Yeah, I can still hit it pretty hard and set my goals really high and continue doing that. And will do that. But I needed something more. You know, at this point it was, I want to honor my son.
So I kind of coined it the pain to purpose journey that you're on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find it. Like, I want to find that purpose to help others, help myself, honor my son, and making the changes that I have. What I realize is the connection you have with your heart and your mind. It's almost kind of like you decalcify yourself. You're opening up, you're more raw, and you're aware of your environment. You're living for today. You're not concerned about what happened yesterday. You're not thinking about tomorrow. So the change is great. The grief will never go away. But,
So there's this concept, excuse me for interrupting.
Go ahead.
There's a concept in the 12-step program that I did that talks about the 24 hours, right? So all we have is today. Mm-hmm. And you touched on that, and I think it's super important, and especially not just in your personal life with your family, but in your business. Mm-hmm. Because if you're thinking about the deal that went south yesterday, or the big deal that you're trying to close tomorrow, you're going to miss today's opportunities.
Or even the big deal that you did close. I think so many people close that big deal. They get that big paycheck and they go into overdrive. They give themselves a break. They stop doing those very important things that they did prior. They relax.
I've got my check made for the month.
Yeah, exactly. So I think on the flip, not getting that deal or even closing that big deal, that happened yesterday. What are we going to do today?
What are we going to do today? And I think when you can show up in that present moment for your client, for your employees, then it elevates them. It empowers them. People feel good. The referrals flow. It's just a win-win situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I think back of when I started. I opened my agency. I was 29. Never took a college class on how to manage employees, how to run a business. So I was completely new at it. And the only thing that I really knew was I'm the boss. I had that, ego mentality. I'm the boss. You're going to do what I say. And I micromanaged my employees. And the environment reflected that micromanagement. It's almost kind of like
the morale of the office. Yeah,
it's like when I wasn't there, they're all thrilled to death. They can talk, they can hang out, they can do whatever. I mean, they were still being busy, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they were far more relaxed. And I think after years of burning through employees, I just got to the point where I'm like, I don't like going to work. They probably don't either. So my whole mentality changed. I stopped making it about the numbers, and I stopped the micromanaging, the team meetings every day. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It works in so many other environments. It just didn't work with me.
Right.
And basically the one thing that worked is, I went out and door knocked businesses and was bringing in the business, and that changed the dynamics in my agency.
But also, I think it was interesting that you told me that story, but you also said that you had people come and just see your energy and see what you were doing, and your work that you were putting in, and they say, we want to get involved with this.
Yeah, that's how everybody is. They start seeing. My company puts out the numbers. So back in the day, I'm thinking 2011 is really when this change took place with me at work. Everybody's calling you up. What are you doing? And you're not telling them because you don't want anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy, just going into somebody's business, introducing yourself and asking them, if you can look at their insurance needs.
That personal touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it became fun to the point where, like you just said, I had a lady that was working for me at the time, Hispanic lady, and she's like, let's go to the South Side. Let's just start. And I do not speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So, the two of us together were unstoppable. It was a lot of fun.
Well, and that energy is contagious. And you got when you have a second person, because I did door knocking, little different environment, but it's nice because if you're both on the same page, you can play off each other. People are going to gravitate towards that good energy. People ultimately want to do business with people that are happy, that have good energy, right? That are you're never going to buy something from somebody that's like all down and out, or that's just has a cloud walking over them, right?
I mean, look at what you did. You sold cars.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest fear that most people have when they go into a dealership. That was mine. Is you pull in, you park, and they start swarming.
Yeah.
And you just have this automatic distrust with anything that they're saying. So being able to connect with that person.
I would usually say some off the wall stuff like right off the bat, just to get them to laugh and break the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the dealership I worked at, I will say they had some sense to them. We had a greeter. There was a little bit of an order, although people still would take advantage from time to time. And to me, that's the spiritual side of business that I really want to touch on and get more of my own understanding and be able to talk to people about what their views are on that, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm treating people the right way, if I'm showing up to work with a positive attitude, a can-do attitude every day, I'm going to run into business. It's a magnetic thing.
Yeah.
I can remember, it's no wonder when you're already having a good month, how that keeps rolling because you're already expecting it to come in.
Yeah.
When I'm having a good month and mentally I'm in the game, guy walks around the corner, literally bumps into me. Hey, I want to buy a car. Are you a salesman? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can help you.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're down in the dumps and you're just like, woe is me. Not even flies want to land on you at that point.
Exactly. And I think in my industry, it's not only making that connection off the get-go, but more so you want to keep them as a client, because the longer they're with you, the more you make over time. So tell me just real quickly, you told me a great story that you did last week. You visited a longtime client. Yeah.
And you've been in the business for how many years? 25 years?
Since 03, so 22.
Okay. So maybe some business owners would say, no, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But what did you do? You showed up to their house.
Yeah, I went to their house. It's just a older couple up in Ore Valley, and they wanted to sit down and talk to me. My office is at River Road and First, so it's a bit of a hike for them. And they asked if I could come out there, and I was more than happy to do it. Hey, it's my job. These people write you a check every year for their premiums, and if all you got to do is show up to ease their mind and make sure that they're taken care of, fantastic. And so, being who I am, it's never going to be a 30-minute or 45-minute appointment.
Yeah.
It ended
we
up
both
being
like to talk,
a couple hours. You just get to know them. I've already known them, so I know who they are. You start talking about their kids and their grandkids, and what their plans are. Down the road, what they're doing this winter, what they did last summer. So it's just you're invested emotionally, in these people, in your clients' lives. And I think that's what people enjoy about my agency is just the fact that we do care. We're not trying to make a buck all the time. Honestly, I think lately with just how the industry is, we're trying to, lower premiums for them, tell them whether they need a policy or not, and most of the times there are a lot of policies that they've had in place for years. They don't need anymore. So we just say, you don't need this, save some money here.
Right. So it sounds like to me, you're not only doing that because you believe it's the right thing to do, but you also know that it will end up creating more business for you ultimately, because if you're treating people right, generally they're going to tell other people about that.
Yeah, I think, in the beginning, you're always wondering, you're asking about the referrals and this and that. I think that, in fact, that was one of the big expectations that I had with my team was, when you have a sales appointment, ask them how it went, ask them if they were happy, and then ask them to name 5 people that would want the same experience that they just had, and really pushed it on them. But now, if you just do the right thing, we still ask for referrals here and there, not as diligent as we did in the past. But, if you do the right thing and people are happy and you're connected with them, they're going to, if they hear a friend talking about something that's insurance related, they're going to say, call my guy up. That's just natural. So it's an honor that they do think of us. It's an honor that they recommend us. And to me, it's just been, I have so much gratitude for, the company that I work for the team that I have, and the clients that have been by my side from the get-go. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have been happier.
Has your ladies at the office, how have they rallied around you during this time? I'm sure they all know, but of course,
yeah, they do.
Your clients, have you had people reach out to you and just, ask how they can support you?
No, the support's been unbelievable. I mean, you really do know who your friends are. The ladies at the office are just an extension of my immediate family. I mean, to me, they're my sisters, and that's just how we are. I don't look at myself as their boss. So we're all deeply emotionally connected with each other. I know what's going on with their families. If their son has a baseball game, if their daughter has a softball game, we ask about it, how they do. I give a lot of flexibility because that's very important to me. I want my ladies to be at their kids' events, a Christmas play, whatever. Work's going to be there. But being at those events at this time, at that age, that comes and goes pretty quick.
Right.
So they're just an extension of my family. After my son did pass, I think maybe they told, clients that we were super close with, and just the outpouring from all my friends, other agents in the field, clients, it's been really, really supportive, and I think nobody knows what to say to someone after they lose a child. I mean, it is the worst experience that anybody has to go through. But knowing that they're thinking of you and that they care, it means everything.
So I kind of liken it to getting sober, right? It's a little easier to get sober when there's other people that are rallying around you that are walking that same walk.
Oh, absolutely.
When you have a family member, especially a child, pass, I can only imagine, is that when you have people saying, we're here to support you, we don't know what it's like, but if there's anything we can do, I'm sure there's a level of comfort that comes from that.
Yeah.
Even though it may be small. Mm-hmm. And nobody will ever know what it's like because you had a relationship that nobody else had with Jack.
Correct.
And each of your family members did, and so on, right?
Yeah.
And so we had kind of touched on this in my house the first week we met, and you asked me if this is like my mission statement, but I just wanted to kind of switch gears here. So from what I hear you telling me is it's important for you to have a thriving business so that your team, the extension of your family, can be well taken care of, so that they can live lives, so they can have good family lives, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I want them to have everything that I have. I don't want them to have to worry about their health expenses. You know, I want them to look forward to retiring one day as well. And unfortunately, I think corporations and a lot of businesses are just worried about their bottom line and not the lives of the people that are making a difference for them and their business. And I want my ladies to have exactly what I have.
Well, and as a small business owner, you have that full power to do that.
Correct.
That capability to do that.
Correct.
And I think, you know, whether this is part of your purpose or whether your business grows just because of your personal spiritual growth and the path that you're on, right? Because you've also told me that you have more clarity going into work now. You have a little more focus.
Oh, it's
right?
been fantastic.
So your business is going to grow, and as a result of that, these other folks that work for you, their income hopefully will grow. Their prosperity will grow.
Correct.
I feel like when you don't have enough income and you're worrying about where the money's going to come from next month, you can't really relax. You can't really have the type of relationship with your family, with your neighbors, with your friends that you can, even though money doesn't solve every issue. But it's nice to know that things are taken care of. Again, to your point, you can retire at some point. You don't have to work till you're 70, 80 years old.
Exactly.
Right. So you're creating this ecosystem of abundance for other people. And I think we kind of discussed that, like that could be just a small portion of your purpose, because now you have a totally different perspective, right? Like you had the foresight to say, look, I'm going to just take over. I understand I'm not doing things the right way. I've burned through people, because some people never get that.
Yeah.
They'll still keep hitting their head against the wall, never realizing they're their own problem.
Yeah.
So you realize that you made those changes. Now you're going through a different life change where, because of the passing of your son, you're having to have a different perspective on things.
You know, you look back and you have so much gratitude for everything that you have. At least I do at this point. And you want to give back. You want to make other people, whatever they're going through, make it better for them. Yes, with the ladies at the office, you know, will I retire? Maybe when they retire. I don't have to. It's not set, but you know, I want to make sure everybody's taken care of, and that you know, and if it's, who knows? I mean, I've got friends that are in their 80s that technically, yes, they did stop going to the office in their 50s and 60s, but after they've done all their traveling, you know, here they are going back into the office every day in their 70s and 80s because they miss working. They miss the daily routine with the people they work with and the clients that are coming in. I mean, I'll just be a glorified Walmart greeter at that point. So, yeah, I have no ambitions to retire anytime soon, but I think the biggest one is, what can I do at this point? You know, what other field or what can I get involved in to honor Jack and to help people with whatever they're going through.
And I think, you know, part of what we're doing here today is doing that, obviously.
Yeah.
The opportunity you gave me to share at the service is doing that, because anytime you can put awareness out there for what's really going on. And I think it's important also to acknowledge the person who came out to take Jack's body in. Also, I think it was either Katie or you or maybe it was Sarah told me this. He's going to 3 and 4 houses a day.
Yeah.
To do this. So that tells me that 3 and 4 kids a day are dying from overdoses.
Yeah, exactly. I think the detective at the time said, you know, he had already had 5. And this was July 26th, Saturday, around 9 p.m. And he had already had 5. And I don't know if that was just for the day or for the weekend. I mean, they're completely understaffed. And this problem has hopefully it's peaked, but I don't think it has.
Yeah.
You know, it's just ongoing. So, you know, the other thing that I'd like to really get into is, you know, parents, you know, to really, when the kids are really young, you know, tell them, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't smoke. I mean, I don't know if you recall, but in the 80s,
the commercial,
the cartoons, you know, every Saturday, and there was always a commercial, 3 or 4 a day, that was constantly saying, you don't want to do this, you don't want to drink, you don't want to do drugs. And well, I don't see those as much.
Yeah.
I don't watch as much TV either, but, I think we need to really, as parents, enforce that, live that life and, talk to your kids about this stuff from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, because it's one thing to say don't drink as you're sitting with a beer in your hand drinking on the couch. Right?
Exactly.
So how do we get to a point where we feel comfortable about ourselves enough where we feel like we have a general sense of purpose, or a deep relationship with life itself?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for me, I lacked true connection with other people, a sense of purpose. And I was looking for this deep meaning of life. I was always a seeker, but I started looking in the wrong places.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, well, for me personally, is little problems would start happening, and I would use the substance, justify using it as, well, it'll just help me get through this or get over this. And then eventually what happens is your problems, they pile up because you're not dealing with them. And then it just snowballs from there. But I think that, yes, the commercials that I saw when I was a kid, they were kind of outrageous, right? But they're not running commercials like that anymore. I don't know if I have a solution. I just know that I can be a voice for what change is and how God's worked in my life. And I just want to glorify what God has done for me. And it's not look at me, it's look at all the people in the community that supported me to get me to this place.
Correct.
Because you're sitting here talking to somebody who countless people, dozens and dozens of people, have had a hand in my journey over these last 7+ years. My sponsor will be on the show next week. Incredible guy.
Wow.
Guy put a gun to his mouth with 6 bullets in the chamber, pulled the gun and, pulled the trigger and nothing fired. If that's not a spiritual experience, I don't know what is.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, I look back at where did it go wrong with Jack? And all I know is that the kid was a great basketball player, and at the time I think he was 16 or 17, in between there. He had a lot of colleges looking at him. His grades were never, straight A kid. But he played hard, and I know that he got a couple of, pretty severe concussions, real close to each other, I'd say within 6 months. And I think, he couldn't sleep. He was just in pain, the headaches, the spinning, double vision, everything that one goes through when they have a pretty bad concussion. And I know he was prescribed, I think, Klonopin. And that's when I noticed a change. I would monitor, look at the pill bottle, and I'd say, hey, we filled this up last week and you got 2 left. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, no, and that was my kind of thing too, because I remember going to the dentist in junior high and coming home, having some dental work done and having some Vicodin prescribed to me, and laying on the couch, taking a few Vicodin and just realizing pretty quickly, like, I like this feeling. So was I born with it? Did it develop over time? What came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't even know if I necessarily need to know.
Yeah.
But I just know that I had that propensity at a young age. And it sounds like he did too. And I just want to touch on the kind of basketball player he was too, because he was just an amazing player. He was an amazing talent. And unfortunately, the concussions, made it to where he couldn't fulfill that.
Yeah, he didn't want to play. It was just it was too much for him.
And if it bothered him anything like it bothered me, for me, it was drugs and alcohol that didn't allow me to fulfill my potential in sports. But it always irked me. It always bugged me. And I asked him one time, would you want to get back out there and try and play at Pima or do something? And he's like, nah, because he could play. Yeah. He could flat out play. And we played a few. He almost dunked on me at Vasa one day. Luckily, he missed it. But I went up and I was like, oh no. So he was a tremendous athlete. He was a tremendous student. He had so much going for him.
He did. He did. And he loved it. He was passionate about it. But, I think there's a lot of but he did, he enjoyed doing it when he was doing it, in high school. I think, talking about, do you want to play at the next level? He liked it. He thought about it, but he was done. I think after the concussions and then just playing, because we were in a traveling league. I mean, he played on a league in LA. So, I mean, we were flying out there every week.
Yeah.
And I just think he was done.
Yeah.
But he did like to play on the weekends, intramural,
Right.
At the Y or even at LA Fitness with his friends or even at school with the other basketball players that are on the team.
Right.
The off season and stuff like that.
Right. And then to your point too, I mean, without his ego being involved, he goes, I can leave it alone. I don't have to, it doesn't have to define me. Right. So ultimately, I mean, we're about to wrap up here. What is it that you want people to know ultimately about your son, about the journey that you're on, about how we can honor his life?
The journey I'm on is, again, honoring him and, living a clean, sober life. How well you feel once you get on path and the ways that you can touch so many other people when you're in a clear mind and helping other people go through the journey as well. I mean, you were working the 12 steps with him. I'm working the 12 steps with you right now. And hopefully down the road, I'll be working the 12 steps with another person or several people. But basically, just stay connected with your kids, be in their lives, talk to them about the do's and the don'ts when it comes to substances. Be the example for your kids because they're not stupid. If you're doing one thing and telling them to do the other, you're going to lose all credibility with them. So if everybody would just be more spiritual, be more connected with the family, I think we can make a change. And that's really what needs to take place in this nation at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mike, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you,
It's been
man.
an amazing first show.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Look forward to another one at some point.
You bet.
All right.
All right.